This segment is brought to you by Jig Masters. Step up your game with high-quality performance jigs, spinner baits, buzz baits, and more from jigmasters.com. And always, when in doubt, get the jig out.
Welcome to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. This is the final cast segment with your hosts Brad Hicks and Josh Eldridge, where we cast our final opinions on all products, good and bad. Welcome to the final cast. Welcome back to the final cast on the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. I'm your host, Brad.
What's up? I'm Josh.
What's up, man? How you doing?
Good.
First episode of 2021.
Sort of. I mean, we're doing it ahead of time, but that's good. It's a good thing.
First episode airing in 2021 for us. So
yeah,
I'm excited, man. 2021 better be a better year than 2020. That's for sure.
It's not. It's going to be garbage, hot garbage.
I hope not. Yeah, we're going to kick off the season big. We got Duke Weskamp in the house on the final.
What's happening?
What's up?
Thanks for having me.
Heck yeah.
Welcome back, man.
I'm honored to have the pole position for 2021 here. So
Yeah, better take the lead and run with it.
I just like to set the bar low. That way all the rest of the podcast will be awesome.
You can't say that shit because your podcasts with us in the past have usually been near the top. So you're not setting any low bars. Yeah,
I should be charging you guys a fee or something, I think.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
It's not that good, bro.
Come on, let me have my moment.
It's still just the final cast.
Well, heck, last time you were on the final cast was when the final cast was getting started. You guys just talked all things Ketch and everything, I think. And that was a year and a half ago.
That was with Justin. You weren't even part of this yet, Brad.
I know. It's crazy.
You weren't part of the Paddle and Fin circus quite yet.
He was on the reel down though.
Yeah.
So and then he got switched over with me. So he got stuck with the Trash Panda. Shit,
That's
yeah.
all right. The Trash Panda has got much notoriety here in the Midwest, you know.
Every time we see something that's like a raccoon related, we always send it to Josh. He likes it.
Hey, man. It's all good. So, man, you've been a busy man this year, Duke.
I have.
I mean, we dealt with the virus thing. It's pretty impressive to see you guys come up with the new products and kind of be dealing with all that shit at the same time. What was your kind of thoughts about this year, just in general, about, the business itself? Kind of what went through your mind through 2020? The shit show is 2020.
I mean, it was an awesome year. I mean, overall, just like the big business picture it was our best year ever. We roughly doubled the business over, between 2019 to 2020 again. So we did really, really well. Part of like the fact that we've always done American sourcing, that a lot of stuff that caught up with a lot of people earlier in the year really didn't catch up with us because we weren't using Chinese vendors. If you'll remember back, January, February, March, product wasn't even coming out of China. So, there's still shortages. I mean, I have to search all over the place to find these things now because there's actually an aluminum can shortage, and Hams is one of the Coors lines that they've deprioritized. So like when I find them at the store, I just gotta hoard them like a squirrel for winter. As far as the business year was awesome. It was hectic, and but we managed to still release the products, albeit a little later than we wanted. We really wanted to get it out by spring, but there were just too many forces conspiring against us for a spring release. And honestly, we underestimated sales on almost all the new products. So a later fall kind of release was actually better for us because it slowed sales a little bit. If we'd have done it in May like we had intended, I think people would have been upset because there were probably been a month or so there where, product was just unavailable. So
Right.
it ended up working out good, but I'm just like everybody else. I'm sick of the shutdowns, like restaurants being closed, not seeing people, social events canceled. Like I'm done with it too. I'm looking forward to hopefully something in 2021. At least, I got to travel this year, which was nice. Didn't really get to see many people or mingle with the natives, but still got to do some traveling. So keep me sane a little bit.
Yeah, which is weird because in a year we're not supposed to travel. I've probably done more traveling this year than any other year in the last few years combined. It's kind of weird.
I was following all those advisories for, such a long time, and it just got to a point where, because we have a business where we actually film. We have a media business, and the travel restrictions. I mean, as you guys know, there's not a whole lot to fish in Illinois. I mean, you can't. There's only so much you can film within the border of this state and like make it interesting for people. And so we've been shut down more or less all year. And then by September, I had just gotten fed up and said, "Screw it. We're traveling. We're gonna take all the best practices we can, wear masks and socially distance where we can and where it's possible, but I just said screw it. I'm kind of done with it. If someone wants to stop me, come stop me.
Well, you're your own boss, man. You can do what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more worried about I live in Illinois, man.
That's true.
The liberal vibes here are super, super strong. Like I wouldn't put it past them to like arrest people, to like stop them from opening their businesses and stuff. This is it's a communist state. Trust me.
I hear.
It kind of got down to the point. I mean, it's like you said. Like, I mean, I traveled a lot this year for fishing, more than I had before. I mean, I went up to Detroit. Like kind of at the start of this. That was a bad area that got hit with the virus real bad. And it's funny because I traveled more in the spring and it kind of slowed down in June and then kind of not hunkered down, but, I just stopped going out of state in a sense. And I ended up catching the virus a couple weeks ago and I haven't been doing shit.
Yeah.
I caught it for like 7 people at work had it, man. Like,
dang.
And so it's kind of, I don't know that the travel ban in the sense of, for certain states and stuff is necessarily going to slow anything down. I think it's just simple. Wash your hands. Stop coughing on shit, people.
That's all we've done at the shop and otherwise. We got this little nifty little misting device. So we mist it's got like a hydrochloric acid, like it's a really fine amount of it, right? And you just fog everything. We fogged everything and everyone's just a little bit better about washing their hands and not touching their face and stuff. Like, we don't mandate masks at the shop because for the most part, no one's working within 6 feet of each other for an extended period. We have some space. So, I mean, we don't even mandate masks at the shop. And we had one guy who got it from his family, who brought it into the shop, had it there for a day, and we had no positive cases after that. So,
Interesting. It's crazy.
And I traveled all over the place. Like we were up in Indiana for the Grubby Championship, and it was like there were not people wearing masks anywhere.
Oh, I believe it.
Like if you were wearing a mask on the street, they were looking at you funny. And that's funny that there was no big outbreaks out in the middle of Indiana where no one was compliant with these regulations. So who knows?
Speaking of the Grubby Championship, that's where you announced the Ketch X, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, we planned to have it out like a couple days after that, and that was one of our, I love the staff I have at the shop. There's great guys there. They all hang out with each other and fish on days off, and so like almost our entire first shift ended up being exposed to the same guy who had COVID over that weekend. So we had like 14 days there where we weren't even up and running. We kind of like pieced together some of the guys that were working later, some of the guys that were kind of contracting for us to kind of at least still like fulfill orders. And so we weren't like totally shut down, but That was when we announced we gave away a Ketch X. We brought a bunch of Flip-Its to the event because Jim Strunk, who runs Grubby, is actually the guy who designed the original Flip-It, and then we just kind of adapted it for the new products or rather for all the products. So
awesome. All right, well, let's talk about the boards and the Flip-It. So let's start kind of chronologically. So the carbonate is your plastic board. Yep. That was the first new product of the year, correct?
Correct.
For this year. For those who don't know, this thing's awesome. Like Duke sent me one. I think you sent me one of the prototypes. Yeah. Because I don't think it was fully lined at the top, which I didn't really care about. I was more interested in testing testing durability. Like, and like it was the I don't know, is it a 32-inch board? Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's the ones he sent us.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're 32, 26, and 16.
16. Dude, I'm going to tell you something hilarious about the 32. The 32-inch board versus the 26-inch board. For some reason, the 32-inch board feels like it's 5 feet freaking long, dude. Like, yeah. I'm like, I don't know what it is about it, but it's hilarious.
It's right at that point, and that was the reason we had a 26-inch board. We originally, like way back when in 2016, all we had was a 24-inch and then a 32-inch.
Yeah.
And the big complaint on the 24-inch was, there's guys down south, catch bass bigger than 24 inches. I mean, how many in a given year? Not very many, but, we figured enough. That 26 was like the tipping point because that was where you could fit between the gunnels of most boats or of most kayaks.
Yeah.
So it feels a lot smaller. The 32 feels a lot bigger because when you go to stick it somewhere in your kayak, it doesn't want to sit in the same spots. It's too long to sit behind, right in front of your milk crate or behind your seat. It kind of has to go like longitudinally with the boat, So it does. It feels a whole lot bigger. And if you don't need if you're not like fishing walleye or something, I mean, I don't know. Like if you hang, what's better? You measure your 27-inch bass, or you get to show everybody the picture of your bump board where the tail's hanging off the end of the bump board. Which one has more visual impact? You tell me.
Yeah. But it's I was impressed by it, man. I hadn't seen one yet. I read online, everybody was raving about it. But when I opened that thing up, dude, I was really, really impressed with the durability and the feel of it and how it was lightweight. I was kind of thinking in my head, I'm like, it's plastic, plastic's plastic, like how can this really kind of be changed so much from the hog trough? You know what I mean? That was in my head as these things come out, because I've had other plastic boards, like a little Rapala one or this or that. And I'm like, it's plastic. So let's see. And the composite material that you guys are using is definitely different. That was the first thing I noticed. Like, I don't know if it is different, if like the chemical makeup's different, or if it's just a thickness issue. That's what I figured, because I'm like, it just has a density to it that just felt completely different than what the hog trough was. I mean, but I still had a question in my head. I'm like, is it really that the plastic's different, or is it a thickness related type of thing? Because I mean, the hog trough's so thin you can almost see through it. You're not seeing that through the carbonate board, so.
It's a little of column A, a little of column B. It's a much different plastic than the hog trough uses, and it's obviously bigger. And that was all by design. That was, we knew that the biggest complaint about the hog trough was that it broke. I then followed by, I think the second biggest complaint was that I have to draw the lines on it. So like those were like, when we were looking at plastic, we weren't really we didn't want to compete with our aluminum product. It wasn't about like making something that like scrutinizes every thousandth of an inch like that. It was about, all right, this is the high watermark for the plastic boards that guys are using currently. And let's make it not break, and let's put the lines on it, so people don't have to do that, because that seems to be the big complaint. But a lot of it was the chemistry of the material. It's, as the name would suggest, it's a polycarbonate blend. So if you're like worked in the trades, if you're familiar with a product called Lexan, which is like the same stuff they use to make bulletproof glass, polycarbonate. Yeah. So, I mean, that's how we can run it over with a truck or, you know, I mean, it will break. To be clear, it will break. Like we've broken. I mean, when we were shooting those videos this summer, I mean, we must have broke 150 bump parts. You know, jacking around with them, but the point was it was like always really hard. You had to do something extreme. You could break it if you wanted to break it, but you had to do something extreme. Like you had to try to break it. You know,
it's not going to be like the hog trough. Like for example, I've broken like 3 of those where I'm just moving my foot in the kayak and it snaps the fence. That easy. The carbonate board
on the back of your truck and it splits like that.
Yeah.
Or if you have it, I had it in I had a whole, the hog trough bracket holder on the black pack back in the day. I had that down in my room and I had it on the floor, just turned and forgot that it was there and bumped it with my shin, snapped it directly in half. So it is what it is. I mean, that board had its purpose, it had its day.
For sure. It got the whole thing going, to a certain extent.
But so what is it that you guys are, how are you forming them? Is it like injection molding? What's the process?
It's injection molded. Injection molded. It's an improved material. It's obviously a beefier design. It's quite a bit deeper and wider than a hog trough. I think most people think like they're surprised if you see them next to one another. They don't look nearly as similar as they look if you like take 2 pictures and someone's like, oh, it's kind of the same thing because it's got a ruler with the curved sides, But when you see the scale of them right next to one another, it's it's quite a bit bigger. Still doesn't float, but we are working on a float kit. And the truth is, for anyone out there that wants to make it float, go get either 1/2 inch or 5/8 caulking backer rod, and just like the hardest problem we're having is we're going to assemble a kit with the backer rod, so you don't have to go buy like 40 feet of it because you only need a couple feet for the bump. Yeah. So what we're trying to do but we were having a hell of a time finding like an individually packed glue that will like hold it, that will bond well to the backing rod and it will bond well to the carbonate board. Because that was supposed to be done in August sometime, and we've been kind of lollygagging with that because I can't find a glue.
Yeah.
Interesting. I wonder if you could put some kind of just like glue some kind of foam square on the back of it. I don't know.
We've tried some of that stuff. That stuff doesn't play nice with the foam.
Okay, it just eats right through it.
Yeah.
Some of them eat through it. Some of them just don't stick. Just don't stick to it very well. I mean, I'm not joking when I say we've probably tried like 50 different products.
That and you get that thing in the water here in Ohio and those fall right off. I don't know what it is.
The best thing is just construction glue, just like what you'd use like if you were doing woodworking projects, like the multi-purpose construction glue. If you lay a thick bead of that on there, it doesn't go anywhere. But that's gonna kill our margins if I got to send a tuba.
Well, heck, I had no clue it didn't float. I'm glad you told me that because I haven't been tethering it or anything. But
it's real slow, like real slow.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm not worried about it or anything. But man. The carbonate board has been my go-to board since I got one. I love the metal board, but everybody knows I'm a river guy, so I'm scaling down and stuff. That carbonate board is perfect. I love it.
It's for fishing bass tournaments. I'll be honest, it's my favorite board to use as well. It's easy. It photographs really well in any light condition. It's lightweight. Yeah, I mean, because I fish a lot of times I fish out of a sit inside a little Bonafide EX 123. And if you've ever sat in one, I mean, it's a great little boat, but there's not a whole lot of room for your bump board, so it's kind of whatever I can shove in between my legs or, it's nice that it's lightweight, especially going into the strip mines and lugging a bunch of stuff. You don't want the extra couple pounds.
Yeah.
I think I read that you were thinking about getting into a Crescent recently too.
I'm going to get into a Crescent for sure.
There you go.
I'm really interested in that company. I think it's
Me
really
too.
I think they're very pro-American. I'm obviously good friends with Scott Butcher, so
Mm-hmm.
he's involved over there. So I've gotten to hear a little bit about what they're doing, and he speaks extremely highly of James Durbecker, the fellow who owns Crescent, and I've heard nothing but good things, and I love that little bonafide, but it's tough for a full day at the sit inside anymore. I still like fishing out of a sit inside more than anything. It still feels right to me because that's where I started, was in a sit inside. But I think I just got to go with like a lightweight, go to a lightweight, something like the light tackle or even the ultralight. It looks like real appealing, around 60 pounds, pretty decent seat. Made in America, you can't complain about the price. They're all around like $700-800. So yeah, that's what I'll be in come springtime.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to hit on the carbonate, Josh?
Yeah. How are you guys? Are you lining it after the process, or is that done before? Like, what's the whole process with that? Is it etched? What are you guys doing?
So we've actually, this is like work coming full circle. Like, we used to build automation equipment for a plastic molder that's just down the street from us, about 10 minutes down the street in Elgin, Illinois. And so we actually worked it out with them. They build the product. They mold the board, and then the board comes, and then we do the final laser over here. They have the stuff at their shop that they could mark a board with, but it's just not really to our to our standards. More like parts marking, not like what we do.
Not precision.
Precision marking, correct.
So it is laser engraved in.
Yeah, and that was
I didn't know that.
One of the things is, we were limited with what we could build the boards out of, because we needed to be able to mark it with the laser to keep the precision. But it couldn't just be a surface mark. Like, if you take like your keys and just run it over that carbonate board and try to scratch the line up, it won't come up. Like, it things like maybe 10, 20 thousandths deep. It penetrates. That black marking goes deep into the board. So we had to try, a ton of materials to make sure that the marking would stand up. Because the last thing I wanted to do was, give a guy a product that, like, in a year or two, it's not broken, but I can't see the lines anymore because I've put so many fish on it. They're all scratched up. Because you see how the hog troughs get when you line them with the Sharpie and then you put enough fish on them. There's like all sorts of like bits and pieces of the lines missing, and they get real hard to read. So I just didn't want that to happen. That was kind of another thing, it was a little difficult when it came to choosing the material.
Yeah.
Speaking of the lines on these things, there's people, just address this issue where people are taking pictures above their heads, and then like the numbers on the top, it's like an optical illusion where they don't line up with the numbers. Yeah. Just explain that to people just to ease their mind if they're on the fence about one of these.
It's a thing called visual parallax. So that's the reason the lines don't go all the way up to the numbers on the edge as well. Because it looks like, those funky barber's poles, the striped barber's poles. It, like, for some reason, it, like, when you put the line all the way to the top, it has that effect. It like feels like it's moving when it's not moving, and it doesn't. Like, it's even worse. That's why we only go just like a quarter of an inch radius, just barely anything. But yeah, it comes from any time you take something. If we continue the line on the same plane the entire time, it'd be no problem. The line would always look straight no matter the orientation. But the line isn't on one. It stays on. It doesn't stay on a plane. It's actually like this. There's a swoop in the line. It is dead straight. Look at it from overhead. But yes, because it goes up, the visual parallax makes it look like there's a trailing edge. But every one of those boards gets quality inspected before it goes out. If it's not straight, it doesn't go out the door.
I can't tell you how many times I've read that comment, like, I don't know if I want one of those, and judges might worry about it. I'm like, the judges are not using those top numbers.
They shouldn't be.
They shouldn't be, right? They're using the numbers on the board. So that's the reason why I wanted you to go into that.
Well, and the numbers on the top was it was a common request from people. Well,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
Put numbers on the top of the board. Put numbers on the top of the board. And I was like, and I told people all along, I was like, they're limited. There's limited use for it. You know, I'm like, and the reason you want me to do that is because everyone puts their tourney tag over the numbers and then it covers the numbers. I'm like, that's not my problem. That's an angler problem.
Right.
You know, like as much as I hate to be like, take that hard line, like, oh, they're dumb anglers, you know, like but I mean, really that's what it was. You're rushed. So you're not paying attention and you pull it over the numbers, you know, but that's not because, you know, that's because of the ID holder that you were using. And that was a big thing. That was the big thing why, you know, when Jim came up with the flip it, that was what I was like, that was what I was irritated by. We probably sat on the phone for like 3 hours and drank a lot and were bitching and moaning. And I was like, you know what? I just need something that gets the damn tournament identifier off the bump board because they're not letting people put it on the fish anymore. It needs to get off the bump board. So it's just not over those numbers. And he came up with that hinged concept. So I think now that most people, I think, are going to probably end up moving over to that flip it, that ID holder. I think the people that want the numbers on the top edge are less and less. But I think aesthetically it looks kind of cool, and it's not going to hurt anybody. And in the event that you do cover the numbers, it does give you a chance to at least kind of, if you're you know, judge or TD is willing to, you know, whatever. We could get to about 24. We're giving you an inch penalty or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
As opposed to just getting like a 0 because that sucks.
Yeah. So that's a good segue. You want to go into the Ketch ID next?
Well,
sure.
Before we go into it though, because I remember getting mine. I got mine shortly after getting our boards from you at the Turkey Bowl. And because I met Jim, we all went out to eat one of the nights we were there, and I finally got to meet Jim. And then I think the next couple of weeks, I ordered a couple of the flippets from him, the old ones. And so that was in a process for a while because I remember talking to you guys, and you were telling me like, "Hey, we're taking something with that, and we're gonna redo it." And you know, you didn't get any specifics or anything. You're like, just watch out. So what happened with that? What was the I don't want to say delay, because I know you guys were trying to think of some different ideas of you know, like improving what Jim had come up with already. Because I love that thing. It's amazing. Like I hated the tourney tag. I hate it to this day so much. Like that thing's such a waste of money. Like you could buy like 15 of them and still be pissed off at all of them at the end of the year. Because that thing would crumble. Like it would just deform so easily in the sun. And when I bought, you know, and I'd seen other kind of like versions of it, and I was just like, and everybody's like, oh, just throw it in a baggie. And I'm like, yeah, but the way I fish, and especially when I river tournament fish, I get out of the boat a lot, and I get back in, and I get out, I get back in, and I get water everywhere. And so when I got the original Flip It, and just the rigidness of that made my life like 100 times easier. Like just never having to worry about, like you used to have to worry about the sun angles a little bit, but like once you figure out that angle, you're good. And with the tourney tag, the way it is wavy all the time, I'm like, you think it looks good, and then you're like, oh no, half of it I can see it, and the other half I can't because of the bend in it, you know.
Yeah.
And then it was so damn small, like, you know, like you get these, you know, your tournament identification stuff printed out, and trying to slide it into, you know, the tourney tag was like an act of God, man, like to get it without it folding over. So when I got that from Jim, I mean, I told everybody, I'm like, you guys got to go get these things, dude. They're awesome. It's worth every penny of it if you're into tournament angling. And I'm not even a big tournament angler, and I still liked it. I mean, I bought 2 of them. I'm like, I got one by the fence and one about the 17-inch mark. And I've never taken a bad picture since I bought those, like as far as the tournament identification.
The Jim knocked it out of the park with the hinge. It was really some redneck ingenuity, just kind of, you know, figuring out how to he formed the hinge, and then he kind of figured out, so those hinges are real loose. And so you'll notice there's some punch marks on the new ones because we have to put it in a press and then we just punch it. And so you got to like you essentially have to take the hinge off of the axis a little bit in order to get it to like bind up, which I think is the important part. Like you said, because once you get, you can take the board out while the fish is sitting in your net, and you just hold your phone and then you just look at the ID and then you get the angle dialed in and you're totally good. You take that fish out and it's boom. It's one picture every time. Yeah. And it took a while because it would have probably been ready last winter actually. But that was when we went all in as far as we knew we were going to do the carbonate board. And we also stumbled upon that doing the Ketch X board. So we knew there were new products, and so it became super important that if we built an ID holder that it worked for everything. And so that was what delayed it more than anything. We've actually had that profile and samples that look like that flip it probably for over a year now.
Yeah.
Probably about last year at the Turkey Bowl around that time, I probably already had samples of a rough version of the current product, but it was a matter of making the other ones and testing so that it fit, because we didn't want to leave anybody out. And it was like, as an accessory, it only really made sense because we're still a niche product. So it only really makes sense if we can make it work for every product. If it's only like a limited or one of the, lower number lower quantity products, it doesn't make nearly as much sense. So, and the other thing was, I've been working for a long time with Denny Ramiro from On the Water Innovations on the Ketch Keeper, which was the board holder. And it just so happened that we ended up being able to use the profile over, so that works on the same profile. Now it's modified, it's drilled, and we're actually cutting we're putting a lead in on each side, as you can kind of see. But it works on essentially the same profile that the Ketch ID does. So it was little stuff like that made it more feasible for us to make it a more complete, like finished looking product, as opposed to just a bent hinge and some Velcro,
Yeah.
And that was really it. And it was Jim's design worked just fine, but as far as like a production product, we just thought like, hey, that we really need to like put the polish on this thing, and then we need to be able to build the margins in so the dealers can sell it.
Yeah, and you kind of took away the one kind of flaw that you could have seen in it, and that was the Velcro system. Yep. Like I was talking about, like being a river guy and getting out of the boat, and I'm muddy all the time. Like I haven't had one fail yet, but I've also only had it and used it this past year, because I got mine like in the wintertime last year, and I didn't get it out until like March. So really kind of fished heavy with it, from March through this year. And it was like not a ton of, and then I got into more lake fishing anyway. So I wasn't getting in and out of the boat. It wasn't a ton of river stuff. So, but being a river guy and getting that dirt and that grime in there, I was like, I could see where that would be like the weak point in it.
It gets a little nasty, the Velcro does. So we still have a little, like, almost, it's a product called Dual Lock. It's a 3M product that we use on the identifier holder now, and it like snaps into place. So it's like these little plastic, I don't know how to describe it. It looks the same as Velcro, but both sides look the same. And they, instead of it being like that hook and grab where it's kind of like, it's got like that positive. If you have one of those, those open road tolling transponders in your car, the thing that you stick it to your windshield with, that's Dual Lock. That was how I figured out what it was.
I'm laughing because I remember traveling up to see Brian and met you that weekend and getting like, dude, I got a huge toll fine. And Brian's like, I'd never seen that shit before. The little toll thing that you guys stick up in the windows up there. Like I haven't been. I was really pissed about my trip to Illinois because it almost cost me like $200 something in tolls and fines. Yeah,
about that. They're unreasonable. This place is. I'm in the next couple of years. I'll be gone.
But I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just laughing because I thought about that day. I'm like, what is that in your window, Brian? And he's like, oh, that's for the Easy Pass. Or I'm like, what's Easy Pass? He's like, it's for our tolling systems. You just stick up in the window and you pay a monthly fee, and as you go through, it can read that. It scans it.
It's so they can rob you without the gun.
Right. So yeah. I came back and I didn't. I forgot to pay the tolls. I ended up getting a $200 bill, and Brian's like, I told you, and I'm like, I totally forgot, man. So I tried to work with them, and they're like, no. And then COVID happened, and they came back, and they're like, all you have to do is pay the tolls. We're not going to fine you. And I'm like, thank you.
Nice. See, I was out there August and had the same issue. I waited until like 6 days later. I think you got 7 days.
Yeah.
Pay them. 6 days came, and I was like, oh, I got to pay those. I ended up paying every toll twice, or like the total was doubled more than I had to pay. And I was just like, you got to be kidding me. Retarded.
No, it's not. Yeah. Stay out of Illinois. It's not worth it. But the other, the dual lock was one thing where we saw we could like make an actual improvement with the product. The other thing was, we saw a lot of people. We have a really high rate of return customers. So guys that own more than one bump board, a lot of like pro staffs buy them for their guys. You've got a paddle and fin board and a carbonate. And so depending on which board you're using that day, we just wanted to make it removable. So you didn't need to get another piece of Velcro, because actually the Velcro is super expensive too. I mean, Velcro is not cheap.
No, I like how the thing just slides on and off the board like that. It's pretty cool. And that brings up a question that I had. What came first, the ID and the catch keeper, or the actual boards itself?
The first product, Denny had designed the profile that grabs the board and sold it in 2018. So that product pre-exists all of this. The kind of what ended up happening was then the last winter, I said, we need something for the ice fishing market, because the ice fishing market's like starting to like figure out what CPR is, and so they're going to need a real bump board. And the aluminum ones, the fish freeze to them. So that was kind of where carbonate started, and we just put pictures out, in January, like just thinking, this wasn't really going to appeal to our base demographic, which is the kayak market. This is going to appeal to the ice fishing market. And we were like flabbergasted when everyone was like, oh, this is awesome, a cheap catch board. That was kind of why we started, really, thinking, oh, well, there's an opportunity to market and sell this to the kayak market too. And then shortly thereafter was, Jim designed the ID holder, and then the Ketch X board was just something that was just kind of an accident, one of those fun accidents.
That's awesome.
Go ahead, Brad.
Have you guys broke into like the boat world with any of these boards at all?
Not really. There's musky anglers that use our stuff and some walleye anglers. Mm-hmm. No, I'd say less than 10% of our sales are to boaters.
Okay.
So, and a lot of that, and that's probably even less now. A lot of those boat sales are guys that see the product at the trade shows, and we're as we were talking about before we got on, no trade shows this year, and so that's that'll probably stifle that quite a bit. I just don't think there's awareness, and it's not they don't look at their bump board as the same way we look at it. Like, that's our scoring device. It's right. more important that it's accurate for us, because that's what we're actually going by. Most of the time these guys are just, okay, is it 14 inches? Can I throw it in the live well?
Right.
It's like a yes, no question. It's not, is it 21 3/4, or they're just bumping it real quick to make sure it's legal.
It'd be nice. I hope there's a shift. I hope the CPR thing gains traction and goes through the boat world, because I mean, we've all talked about this, and we've had so many episodes about it, and multiple podcasts have covered it, and just tons of topics about the benefits of CPR. And like you hear all the horror stories of these bass tournaments that happen, and especially when they happen during the spawn time. And it's just like, it's at some point, you hear them talk, we got to be conservationists, let's like do this right. And then you're like, the same people are having these huge boat tournaments, just hundreds of boats, and everybody's bringing bass all into one location, and it's like they weigh them. A lot of times they're not surviving very well. And if they do, they might die. You don't know. Nobody really knows. I mean, I've heard of some horror stories where they've got dead bass everywhere around that marina,
Yeah. Well, it's the same guy who will bust your balls on every Facebook group for eating a bass.
Yeah.
Will go throw 5 studs in his live well and cook 70 miles an hour around the lake all day with those fish in 65 gallons of water. I mean, I guess it's, but part of it's education and you got to make them realize, but the boat world is so hesitant to give up weight. They have to weigh it. We have to weigh it on the same scale. We got to weigh our fish. That's the way we've done it for forever. And I don't know. You tell people about CPR and like the boaters just think it's gimmicky. It's gospel to us because that's what we have to do. No one's got live wells. You can't. You could never have a bass weigh-in tournament. I don't even know where you put, even on like the biggest boats like Titans and PAs. Where would you even put 5 keeper bass?
Dude, we did a tournament like Kaiser Lake one back in the day. Was you had to keep them. You had to create a live well.
Really?
I remember doing it. We bought like aeration equipment, for like your fish tank and a cooler, and it worked. But still, I mean, you can see like this isn't good for the fish. Like you look in there, you're like, please just survive, bro. Just hang in there. Like here's some fresh water out of the boat into the cooler. But it was, it's just it is. And it's like you said, they want to, and if you take away that, you take away the ending of it. You know what I mean? In the boat world, you take away the big flashiness of the dudes pulling up in their boats and walking up on stage. Even though it's like, in my opinion, like obnoxious, like. Like it's
totally obnoxious.
It's like, I'm like, what is this? Like, it's the same announcer guy, like he's announcing UFC fights. It's just
7 pounds, 21 ounces.
Like, and to get on a tangent here, I mean, I think that I think that everyone in the kayak world has this thing where like, oh, we want to be like the boat guys. Like, no. No. Let's just be our own thing, man. It doesn't need to be like that. It doesn't need to be like that, There's other ways to make it exciting. I mean, I'll tell you what. I mean, how many hits do you think they get on like Tourney X when the national championship or the Hobie Bass Open Tournament of Champions is going? How many page views do you think happen? Like people that are constantly like checking on their buddies, like I know I do it. I'm sitting there refreshing that thing like 12 times a day, like trying to figure out how my buddies are doing if I'm not there at the event, And there's value in that too. They just need to. We got to stop trying to be like the boat world. They haven't. Sorry to offend any of the boaters out there. But I mean they haven't been the best custodians of the sport over the years. And like you said, that we've all kind of proven that catch, photo, and release tournaments work. They even work when you have a big prize and a lot of anglers and there's multiple software options now for people that want to, start tournaments. There's plenty of other people besides Ketch that make bump boards that you can use for tournaments. There's a lot of options for it. So it would be nice to see the boating community embrace it. And we actually run a CPR event. We have for 3 years locally. And in all the years we've ever done it, we allow boaters. We've always allowed boaters and bank anglers, and we've only ever had a boater win one time.
Yeah.
So it's like it's more competitive. Like, and I keep trying to get guys like, dude, have an event and let some boaters come. Like, don't let them use the gas outboard, but hey, let them get on the trolling motor. I mean, we allow trolling motors on our kayaks most of the time. Let them get on the trolling motor and do their thing, because at least if they're exposed to it. But we can't expect them to make like the wholesale change on their own.
Right.
Like, it's going to take some interaction. It's going to take, guys from the kayak community being like, hey, check this out. It's pretty cool. It's a cool way to keep your club engaged. It's, And it's like doing month longs and special like charity tournaments and stuff. It's great for stuff like that. And we just gotta, I think us as kayakers need to do better about educating them. Maybe.
Yeah, and you make a good point. You make a good point where it's like, you could get these month-long online type of tournaments and charity tournaments, and like, that's what it's really cool about seeing what Jackson's doing. Each year it grows, and you can see that thing. I can't wait to see what Jackson's tournament looks like in 5 years.
Yeah,
like, because as the sport's growing, and like that's where you get the COVID things, sort of like this like blessing in disguise for the outdoor industry, because everybody was forced to be outside because everybody's can't go to work. Everybody's doing this. And the only thing everybody kind of realized they can do is like, I need to go outside, and kayak sales exploded. Fishing sales exploded. I mean, it's still hard to get some fishing gear, to the stores because it comes from, China and Japan and, overseas. But kind of the point being is that you'll see, I don't know how much of a huge uptick you'll see in kayak fishing. I mean, I think you will, but I don't think this is going to be really, really big. But still, like, the more people get involved like that, the more kind of opportunities you have for good causes like Jackson's. It's going to get better and better.
Yeah, I think that, I think you might be underestimating the size of the market. I would say that we're 5 years from the time when there's more guys competing in kayak fishing events than are competing in bass boat events.
Oh, no, I agree with you on that. I'm saying, like, from what we saw this year, as far as like the craziness of how much stuff was bought, and then you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of that lean towards the recreational side, you know what I mean, of kayaking and that sort of thing. And I think there was a lot of people buying fishing kayaks that had no idea they were buying fishing kayaks this year. They were just like, it's a kayak, like, well, it looks comfortable, like
pedal drive looks fun. Yeah.
Hey, but who knows, some of those people that bought them this year, they could be competing in 2-3 years.
I'm just saying, like, the overall, like, tournament, like, increase from COVID, I guess. I think it'll increase it because you are getting more people involved that might not have thought about that before, but I don't think there's going to be this huge increase in direct correlation with that. But I do agree with you though, Duke. I think that in a short period of time that we're going to see kayak tournaments and we're going to see the numbers rivaling the boat scene for sure.
I'm a boat owner and a kayak owner. I had 40 total hours on my outboard this year. I had 160 days on my kayaks. So, it's just when you have to deal with the best boat is your buddy's boat, not your boat, and once you own one for a while, it's like, oh, man, a kayak that I do almost no maintenance to, that I can just beat the hell out of, throw it in the back of my pickup truck. That's a hell of a lot easier than, that bass boat that needs to be winterized every winter. And now there's a little electrical gremlin, which always happens on those boats.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, and you can't take a bass boat down my river.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to get into like a flat bottom boat or a drift boat with one of those jet motors on it.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. We
actually just got back from Arkansas. We were down on the White River with Cody Milton, and it was like he's running one of those little jet boats on the White River. Man, neat. It is so.
It looks cool.
That's a cool little stuff.
I want to do that, and I don't even give two shits about fishing. Like, I just want to go on the jet boat on the river because it looks so wild. Like, the picture or the video you see the Susquehanna River guys doing that. I'm like, dude, I just want to go do that. I don't even care about fishing at that point. It would just be fun to do that.
It would.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, you run those boats in like 8 inches of water, man. It's stupid. It's stupid.
But then again, you got to worry about maintenance and stuff with those. But it does look fun. For sure.
It's still a boat, man. And that's why I do most of my fishing out of a kayak. I don't have to maintain them. I have to do little or no maintenance on it. The boat's always, it's like my project cars. It's a project. Always.
Completely agree. Well,
let's talk about Ketch X.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Let's talk about it.
All right, let's do it.
So is this thing one complete piece, or is it two pieces like the old metal board?
Well, the old metal board was actually three pieces because the cradle, the fence end, and the ruler face were separate. So this is similar in that yes, the fence is still a separate part, but the whole board and cradle kind of, which was two pieces in the old product, it's all one piece now. There is a third piece. It's a plastic end cap that covers the end on the far side.
Okay. Didn't know
What's
that.
it made out of?
Oh, that's 6061 aluminum. So it's made out of the same product as our the same metal as our, or same aluminum as our original product.
Okay.
It benefits, it's an extrusion profile as opposed to a solid piece of billet. So it's about that 26-inch board is about 1.5 pounds less than the original board. So it's like 2.1, 2.2 pounds. And then it's about 3.6 pounds on the original.
That'll make people happy. Man, I get tired of reading comments too.
It will, and it'll get lighter than that. Actually, everything that we're selling right now is already the next batch that's coming in will be even lighter than that, because we always err on the overbuilt side. We'd rather it be overbuilt than underbuilt, and we were able to pull some more material out of it again we were probably going to be just under 2 pounds now, so probably get another 1/4 pound, a little more than 1/4 pound out of it. And again, it was just if you look at I don't know if either of you guys have the X yet, but there's actually a slot built into the bottom. So the master plan is if we can get to a point where we can foam fill it and cover it, it's already designed for that. But what we found with the first design was we just didn't quite have enough volume of foam to be able to float the whole thing. So we're getting, but again, it was like it sinks, but you really sinks slow. It's almost like a suspending jerkbait that just barely sinks. So we thought 1/4 pound might be the ticket. So it may or may not come in a floating version in the near future.
Okay.
That doesn't really bother me, like the floating thing. As long as I have it tethered, I'm fine. But I know there's people out there, they're like, oh, it must float.
You'll always have that argument. Yeah, you'll have that argument, man, because really, as much as I don't mind tethers, but they still have their dangerous side in kayaking, especially for river guys, where you're dealing with more moving water. And it's, I think I've even seen videos of Jeff Little talking about it. He's like, one of the worst things is to have a ton of cordage, involved in your kayak. So, I have kind of a minimum amount, and it's mainly, but over the years, it started out really nothing, and then it's turned into more. The more I got into this, the more tools I'm like, and more expensive stuff that I was buying that I'm like, all right, I don't want to drop that, So it's kind of I'm a huge fan of the original board. I could have cared. I never cared about how much it weighed. I think if you want to talk weight, it's like, go get a lithium battery. You're going to cut so much weight out in just one item. Stop worrying about like a board that's more durable. And you guys want to complain about the cost. In 1 year, I broke enough hog troughs to cover the cost of one catch board. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and that catch board did not need to be lined. It was ready to go right out of the box. There it is. Boom. Let's go. I didn't have to sit there and maintain it. The only thing I got to do once in a while is clean off fish slime off of it, And so it's just, I never understood the arguments with it. I understand it for somebody who's maybe new to kayak fishing or, tournament fishing for the most part. But I'm always a big believer in you get what you pay for. And, and that we all see that in the kayak industry as a whole, like with these boats. Yes, some of the stuff is overpriced, but that overpriced stuff 9 times out of 10 is going to last longer. It's going to hold up to abuse better. It's going to be an overall much, much, much better product. So I got tired of hearing arguments myself too, Brad. Like you were, we're talking about, I'm like, the weight of it never bothered me. I love the weight of it. I'm like, because you could drop it and you don't feel bad about it.
I've dropped it
except unless you drop it on your toe and then you feel like shit, like on your toe, but
with flip-flops on.
I've heard a lot of horror stories on that, but I think it's hilarious personally. I'm like, whatever. But
yeah, I mean, it was never something that like, you try to respond to like, angler critiques, so it wasn't huge priority. It happened, just, based on the design with the plastic board. We didn't really need to try to make the plastic board any lighter.
Yeah.
But with the aluminum extrusion, that was one of the things where we had the opportunity to kind of address that. And again, like you said, to be honest, I've used every other manufacturer's bump board at one point. We've got a whole graveyard full of all the competitors' products at the shop, and I've tried them all out. And the one thing that everyone complained about, the weight, was something that I always liked because when I grabbed it, I was sure it was there.
Yeah.
I was sure I had it. And then when I put the fish in my lap, it didn't flex. It felt way more secure bumping a fish on that than, primarily what was accepted at the time was hog trough. So I've used the hog trough plenty, and like plenty by myself. And that was the one thing that I always thought was the biggest improvement. Was like, I liked that it was heavy. I just never thought that, guys that have 150-pound kayaks with pedal drives and trolling motors and 50, 60 pounds of lithium batteries and a Panoptix live scope. I just never thought those guys were going to be the ones that were like, hey, dude, this is like a couple pounds too heavy.
Yeah.
WTF.
Heavy board is where I draw the line.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like how much of it was just the Duke hate. You know what I mean? Let's just talk shit to Duke because,
There's a certain amount of that. I definitely catch some of that, But I mean, it's anybody who does anything and has any amount of success. There's always going to be some people that want to come and shit in your Cheerios, but
right? Down with Duke, down with Duke, down with Duke. I'm gonna start it, man. Hey, wait, or just jump on the train of it. No.
Just jump on Kayak Bass Nation. They love me over there.
Yeah, they love you guys.
I'm gonna bring this up just because it happened earlier this year. Hobie switching to Ketch only.
Yep.
How did that affect your business?
I mean, it's already like a busy time of year. So, it was, I don't know that event had a huge like end of year difference for us, but for like 2.5 weeks where everyone was in scramble mode, because I think they had the Lake Norman event coming up like right away. It was in like 2 weeks after the announcement, and there was another event like I think a week or two after that. And so I think everyone was a little bit concerned. We're a smaller company. Are we going to have boards? Like, what happens? Can I not fish this event because I can't get a catch board? So it was really hectic as far as like keeping up with orders. There was a really high volume of orders like all of a sudden. But I think when it all was said and done, it kind of like evened off because we didn't see the sales that we would have typically seen in like May, June, July, because I think everyone that was, everyone had kind of already gotten ahead of it. They weren't waiting until the event to go get a bump board. So it was, that was nuts. That was like, I've never had my phone go off the hook. Like, so many people like, well, what's going to happen? What's going to be I'm not Hobie. I'm like, I'm just the guy selling the bump boards. If they want to use it, that's great. We actually have no official partnership with Hobie or anything like that. It's just, they decided on their own that was the product that they wanted to use. And I'm quite frankly happy they did, because that means that the Ketch board are the only boards accepted by Bass KBF and Hobie Bass Open Series. Hobie won't take the carbonate board, but the other two will.
That's cool. Real cool. Well, Josh, if you don't have anything else, man.
No, man, just congratulations on your successes with this.
Yeah,
it's like, we get to meet each other and hang out a couple times now, and I've always enjoyed hanging out with you. And like we were just talking about, I think you catch a lot of a lot of slack from a lot of stupid shit. And it's just it is what it is. It's anytime you've got a big group of people, you've got a lot of people like to, get real chatty and speak their opinions and stuff.
I don't do myself any favors. I mean, trust me. I'm not exactly like a docile creature here, so I don't do myself any favors.
Yeah, I get it, and we've got our opinions, but it is what it is. It is just an opinion. Everybody's got one, and no big deal. But like in the end of it, dude, what you've been doing for the sport overall is huge. You've taken the main component of that makes kayak tournaments successful, and the ability to be able to do it and to do it with accuracy, and you've taken over that market, man, and you've done a great job with the products of it. You're not rushing shit out either. That's what I respect about you, is you're not rushing your stuff out just to make a buck. You are always thinking like you think like an angler still. You're not. It's not what can Duke and Ketch do to make top dollar. You're like, what can we do to make these issues go away that we all see when we're sitting in these boats, and we're fishing these tournaments. And that's what's important, in my opinion, to keep progressing the sport forward into, that bigger picture. What you've been doing has been awesome, man. I congratulate you. I think you've done great,
I appreciate it, man. I never ever had designs on being the bump board guy, and I just kind of fell into it, and it's been a great springboard. But I mean, this year is going to be a lot of us supporting, the product that we just put out. But come 2022, don't be surprised to see us, into significantly more varied products than just measurement devices. I mean, like maybe even kayaks. Who knows? Like there's big stuff. There's big stuff going on, and we're kind of at a point where we're really comfortable with what we've done with the measurement devices, and we'll keep improving. But we've got a good grip on it right now. And so like, I feel like, the media business is something that I'm really focused on in, this year, and also new product development is something that we're super laser focused on right now. We've made a bunch of new hires recently to facilitate that. So, you'll see definitely some not measuring board stuff by 2022. Probably nothing new all of 2021. I don't have an ace up my sleeve. Maybe a lobster and crab measuring device,
or a carbonate kayak.
I want to.
Hold on, no. Just stop there.
I want to build a kayak big time. I want to do it really badly. I want to build a platform.
That'd be awesome.
No, dude, I expect a crab and lobster measuring device. I don't give two shits about anything else except that right now. And I just want to buy one.
Yes, you do tons of lobster.
Go to the grocery store, steal lobsters out of the tank, and just slap them on the board. They want the people working the seafood counter. I was like, what is he doing? I'm like, snapping pictures. Like, this shit's unacceptable. Throw it back into the tank.
That's a good idea for keeping the grocer honest,
Yeah, it's like, oh, that'd be too good. But
Josh is getting slap happy when he.
I am, dude. I always have fun talking to Duke, man. You should have heard our conversations at the Turkey Bowl, man. We sat there for hours. We watched Dusty drink Miller out of a champagne glass while he ate an ice cream sandwich and shit. So remember him trying to tie that leader line like 15 times.
Oh yeah. I was bummed that they didn't do the Turkey Bowl this year, man. I thought that was a really cool event. I was kind of bummed that didn't happen.
Yeah, me too. Well, we'll go ahead and end this. Thanks again for coming on, man. It was pleasure meeting you for the first time since I didn't meet you last time, and I got plans to buy a Ketch X board because I'm a huge fan. So, heck yeah. Josh, anything else?
No, man. Thanks for coming on again, and we'll look forward to doing another one. So I want to get Denny back on too.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah. That's what I'm rocking right here. I don't know if you guys know I'm a minority shareholder. Denny lets me clean the toilets now over at OTWI. So
That's awesome. All right. We'll end this here, guys. You guys have a good rest of the day, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, take care, guys. Tight lines.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_and_fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_and_fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in Northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com